10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
And good morning. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I am AJ Walsh, and I am late to the party. We have some software that just has the circle of death going on, and that's what it's the app that facilitates us being able to have the show on the radio. And a lot of times it has the circle of death, and it takes, sometimes up to 15 minutes of circle of death in order to load. And this morning it's just not loading. And then I thought I was very creative, and I went to the website, tried doing it through that. It said upload the app, and that's how you do it. Anyways, so it said there was an error, a server error. So every day there's something new. It just seems to be something new every day with all of the different technology we have, but that's not your concern. It's just a little bit frustrating coming on. So I vented, and now I'm good. And so good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk, coming on a little bit late, but we're here. We're not on the radio. We're just on Facebook and YouTube Live. So it is what it is. Can't change what you can't change. And but hey, we're going to have a show nonetheless, and the show will be up hopefully on demand after we're done the live as well at youtube.com/Sudbury News and facebook.com/Sudbury News. So let's have a great show today. I'll get the show up on the screen here so I can see people's comments. And it looks like we just have a few people coming on. But because we're late, I'm sure a lot of people thought maybe we were not having show, so that's odd. So that's yesterday's show, and we'll refresh and we'll get today's show up and running. No wonder I didn't see any people. I was playing yesterday's show instead of today's live. And now here's the circle of death again. Seems to be a theme for the day. If you don't know what I mean by the circle of death, if you work on computers, you definitely do. When you're waiting, just when you're in a hurry usually and you need to get something done, that's when the circle comes, just saying, oh, it's loading. Something's going on. But anyways, let's dive right in. Let's get to the show. We got local headlines to go over, and then we have our follow-up to yesterday's show and the week in general, and what's been going on. It's been rather interesting with former Nazis being, standing ovations in our House of Commons in Ottawa, to the 1 million march, the protests, the counter-protests, the media's coverage of it. We see which side they're on and why they are. What's behind the scenes, like what's going on with all this stuff. Can we make sense of it? So let's try to make sense of some of the local issues we talked about yesterday on the show. We'll have Mike Parent, more than likely either Friday or Monday or Tuesday, on the show to talk about the city, and possibly Natalie Labby as well, coming up on a subsequent show. I've sent the email off and just waiting for a response. Anyways, so looking forward to those conversations and trying to make sense of the world we live in that's local and abroad. And speaking of that, let's check in with what our weather is going to be looking like right here in Greater Sudbury. We'll be back right after this. So Sudbury weather is brought to you by sudburyweather.ca, and currently it is 10 degrees, partly cloudy, and today we can expect a mix of sun and cloud, high of 20, UV index is 5 or moderate. Tonight a few clouds, fog patches developing overnight, low of 7, so rather cool tonight. a mix of sun and cloud. Fog patches dissipating in the morning, and high of 20. That's for tomorrow. A look at your longer range 6-day forecast. Again, tomorrow, mix of sun and cloud, high of 20. Thursday and Friday so far are forecast to be sunny, 20 and 22. And then Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 22, 24, 22, a mix of sun and cloud for those 3 days. A look at your satellite over northern Ontario. You can see it's very clear, very limited clouds. And so today, mostly it'll be a mix of sun and cloud somehow. I don't really see where the clouds can be, but they can develop or make clouds. So maybe that's what we're going to get today, to have the mixture. But it'll be a nice, beautiful day and few days coming up. So a nice, warm, rather temperate and great weather coming up for the end of September, going into our fall. So we can't ask for better weather at this time of year. And that is your weather, brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. We'll be back with your comments, news headlines, and dive into some follow-up on the issues that we're facing locally and in Canada right after this. Okay, and we are back, and thanks for being with us, everyone. Whether you're from Sudbury or you're joining us from anywhere other than Sudbury, welcome. We're on Facebook Live, facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News. I'm going to be looking over my shoulder throughout the show just to see if the app that facilitates our being on the radio actually starts working. And then I'll just take a few moments and get that up and running. So unfortunately, those driving will not be able to get the show today. But for all of us online and in YouTube and Facebook land, we'll be able to have a show. So speaking of that, we have a couple people joining on already. So Judy, first to the party. Good morning. Hope you're having a great Tuesday today. Good morning, Belinda. I often wonder of how much that weighs us down is not ours to. I often wonder of how much that weighs us down is not ours to carry. That is so true. Thanks for sharing that. And Diane, good morning. Bon matin. Good morning, everyone. Good AM. Good morning. Yes. Thanks for being with us again. Haven't seen you for a bit. So hope you're having a great Tuesday. And Tracy, good morning. Beautiful people. A nice smiley, sunshiny emoji. And Maurice, good morning, with a heart emoji. Always great to see the positive emojis and, positive sayings. And speaking of that, Belinda, again, every warrior in Canada that gave their life for this country should be outraged. Every Jewish citizen that had family members that perished in death camps should be demanding Trudeau's resignation. Good luck on that one. He's not Doug Ford. Okay, not that Doug Ford's resigned, but at least Doug Ford's come out and apologized, and 2 of his ministers have resigned. And yeah. So Miles says the worst thing about all this is that Putin is playing the Canadian debacle on Russian news. Well, that's obviously what's going to happen. Fueling his conspiracy of Nazism being pushed by the Ukrainians, for sure. Definitely, yeah, that's not going to help any cause over there. And so I'm sure a lot of us have been reading about and learning about all that was, that happened when Vladimir Zelensky visited Canada looking for some cash, some cold hard cash, and he definitely got it. We delivered on the cold hard cash to the tune of 260 million more of taxpayers' dollars. At the same time, praising a former Nazi SS militant, part of a military group in Ukraine. And it is, I read an article talking about all the history of the Ukraine. And so you can see how they welcomed the Nazis at the time they did, because Russia was definitely putting it to them, causing a famine. Millions of people died. And so they weren't very happy, obviously, with the Russians. And they looked at the Nazis, or the Germans, as liberators at the time. And so it's not cut and dry. History isn't like that. The more you learn about it, the more you realize there's a lot of moving parts to it. However, after all that, they did realize the Nazis weren't as, all that they thought they were, and they actually ended up fighting against the Nazis as well to try and get them out of their country. It was at this point that this particular person chose to join with the SS and fight against his own people on the German side, right? So we don't know all the reasons for it. We just know that today, you say the word Hitler, you know what it's going to bring. Hitler doesn't mean good, right? It's just throughout history and time, branding has taken place, and there's just a lot of connotations that go along with something, and we don't think of the broad history. We don't think of all the great things Hitler brought to the world when we say Adolf Hitler, right? Which he, in fact, did. If you look at it, and I know what's his name, Kanye West, or he's now a symbol, or he's got a different name, or whatever. He was denounced for praising Hitler's accomplishments, right? And how bad is that in our society today to do things like that? Because you can't do that. We just can't anymore. Hitler is bad. We're good. That's what we boiled it down to. Nazis bad. Right now, Vladimir Zelensky is a god, right? Anything he does is perfect. He can do no wrong. So that's just the way people take it. And media is complicit in this, in what we think about things. And if you really look into the war in Ukraine, it's very complicated, and it's not good versus evil. There's a lot of rich people looking to get richer that are backing this war. And somehow they're able to get taxpayers' money just given to them. We think it's going to military. We think it's being used to fight Vladimir Putin. That's what we're told. But in fact, do we have any evidence of that? Do we see where the money's going? Are they accountable? Is there checks and balances in place with this money that's being thrown to Ukraine? No, there's not. And it seems like the West is just opening up the coffers and just whatever they want, they're getting, with no accountability whatsoever. There's a lot bad in what's happening. And, just the fact that most governments, Western governments, are standing and applauding for the idea of this war, which is very complicated. Again, it's not just good versus evil. And really looking into it for what it really is what the onus is on you to do that. It always is, to find out what's really going on. Don't take what you're being told ever about anything. Just look into it. Ask yourself some critical thinking type questions. What's really happening? Who's who? Where's the, where, why, when, what, who, how, why. The 5 W's and H of good reporting. And you'll get to the bottom of a lot of things. You may not be the most popular person once you uncover stuff, because it's not what the mainstream is, going along with, and everybody else is just spewing out what mainstream media says, thinking they're smart because they've looked into it, because they listen to the CBC, and that's their extent of looking into it. So And again, so it's deeper. What just happened? When you try and put it in a category of good and bad, it's hard to do that when you really look into it. But we can all agree that a Nazi in Parliament getting a standing ovation, probably not good optics on our government. You know what I'm saying? Like if you just kind of then, after I said all that I said, and then you try and put it in perspective, that it's still just not good. And other countries are laughing at Canada. They have been for a while, if you watch international news. If you don't, you think, wow, Trudeau is a god in this country, given the media that he funds. Obviously, he's going to be. But you look at other countries and they're kind of laughing at him. And one story I heard on CBC just coming into work this morning about Italy's problem with the over immigration that they're experiencing. And CBC had the gall. And this is, again, something that I can catch and not too many people are going to catch. But they said the far right leader of Italy thinks this. And I was like, whoa, far right leader. Interesting. Use that terminology. I wonder what people think far right means when you're saying that as a journalist. And so if the leader of Italy is far right, what is the leader of Canada? So again, you have to compare with the same ruler if you're going to be unbiased, right? You got to compare. Okay, you're going out there, you're doing it. You just said it. Far right leader of Italy. You said it. You did. Okay. So now you're putting labels on leaders of the world, far right. That's fine. You're not just saying the party they belong to, it's conservative or it's this or that. It's far right. Now we know what the media seems to be doing. It's like if you smell a smell in the air, you're like, smells like wood burning somewhere. You know, someone's starting a fire somewhere. Like, you have other senses that are at work here too. And when words, they appeal to different senses. And so just like your nose, you can smell something. Something's different. There's a smell. It's smoke. There must be a fire somewhere. So the media is starting to use far right. But you don't hear anything like far left. Well, you would think if there was a far right, there must be a far left. I would think so, right? Like, you can't just turn right everywhere you go. You'll end up, how can you get around anywhere? You got to go right and left, right? But the media doesn't talk in terms of far left. They'll say center. And they'll say left leaning. They're always soft on the left. They're left leaning. They're never far left. And Jordan Peterson puts it out there. He goes, we know, we talk about it. It's common in conversations of everyday people. When you say far right, we kind of know what that means. You know, it's bad. It's not good. Far right. You know, they have unacceptable views kind of thing, right? So, but can far left have unacceptable views too? And who is far left? Well, according to the media, they don't exist because they don't talk. I've never heard them ever say those two words together. Far left. Right? But the far right leader of Italy, now right away you go, oh, okay. What does that say to the average person? They're one of those. And where did that even come from? One of those. One of those freedom people. One of those truckers. Those bad people that are holding unacceptable views. Part of a fringe minority. Misogynists, en français. And so that's the leader we have here, who, I was just quoting Justin Trudeau, by the way, all of those things, calling the far right, those things and more. So in the media, they also do the same thing. They're calling out far right all the time. The far right, the far right, the far right. What does this mean? Far right. You know? And then if you look at, even recently with the 1 million march for children, There's parents who think maybe if their child is going to change their gender and want to be called he rather than she, some parents feel they should maybe know about this if they're 6 years old. Maybe, you know? And some parents are making the arguments that in order for a child to go on a field trip, let's say, they have to sign a form of consent to allow the child to go on the field trip. But the schools and a lot of governments are saying, yes, you still need to do that, obviously, for legal reasons, liability. But if your child decides to change their gender, the very nature, biological nature in their minds, not even physically, they just now want to be a boy or now want to be a girl if they were the opposite, and every day can be different, the parents have no right to know this, which leads one to think, whose rights, what about the children's rights? Like, it's children's rights issue. It's in that category. Good morning, Monique. Thanks for joining us. We started off a little late today, as you can tell. Glad that you're here. So there's lots going on, and I know the city yesterday or the day before put out what side they're on, right? Like they said this in a statement: the city of Greater Sudbury stands for the protection and support of our 2S LGBTQIA plus community members. That's who they stand for, the city. Our focus, the city's focus, remains on ensuring our community is safe and inclusive space for all. But they didn't just say all in this statement. They said the 2S LGBTQIA plus community members. So they've singled out a group of people or they're all different, but they seem to be in the same category, but it's sexual identity of a certain, it doesn't put heterosexual in there though, but it should have that. I just thought of that now. Why isn't it H, heterosexual, 2S, LGBTQIA plus? Or are we the plus? Are straight people the plus? I don't know. That's never been explained to me. But the city comes out and says they support that community specifically and then want to make the rest of the community safe. Space for all. So again, they're not saying anything specific other than just a generality, but they did say specifically they want to support the 2S LGBTQIA plus community, which I'm sure is going to grow with other genders other than straight or heterosexual, right? They're not welcome to that party, apparently, even though the city wants to make it a safe and inclusive space for all. Right? So that acronym, whatever that is, does not sound very inclusive. It sounds exclusive to me. Because my sexual orientation is not included in there. And so I am excluded from being part of this safe, inclusive culture that the city is saying that they want to support. While we respect the right to protest, while we respect the right to not agree, that's what you do when you protest, right? I protest that. Hey, you want to go to McDonald's? No, I protest. I don't want to go there. I don't eat McDonald's. It's not healthy. It's going to kill me if I eat it at a younger age than if I don't eat it. Okay? Sorry, McDonald's. That's the way I feel. It's my opinion. I protest going to McDonald's. I just don't want it. I don't like McDonald's. Now, McDonald's still can be there. in my world, it's inclusive. Like if McDonald's, I'm not going to say you need to not be there. You can be there all you want. And anyone who wants to go there can go there. And I applaud that. Like I don't sit there and exclude someone from being my friend if they eat at McDonald's. I really don't. I just, maybe in my mind, I go, well, or I might say, you know what, probably not healthy. Have you seen the video where the burger just sits there for 100 years and doesn't decompose? I might say that, but that's not me hating on a person because they choose to go to McDonald's. But if someone's telling me McDonald's is the way you should be, and you should, and really try and tell me McDonald's actually is healthy. It's very healthy for you. And anyone who tells you it's not healthy, they're bad. And you should go to McDonald's and not tell anyone you're eating at McDonald's. It's our little secret. What the heck is up with that? You know? That's what the protesters basically saying. We don't eat McDonald's. Sorry. And we don't want you teaching our kids that it's healthy for them. When it's not. When we don't feel that it is. You can feel it is all you want. You could eat there if you want. Go. And if you want to party, have a parade on your way to McDonald's, that's okay too. It's fine. But don't force anyone else or teach. You know, you're teaching false things. If I'm teaching McDonald's is healthy, I think we can all agree that that's false. Even if you love McDonald's. It's true. Like, can we all agree on that? Okay. So some people feel sexual orientation of two men or two women being together or whatever, it's just not going to give you the most out of life. It's maybe not the healthiest way to live. Possibly. Maybe, are they wrong to think that way? And they don't want that for themselves. They just think, you know what? Not for me. I don't like green. I don't wear green suit jackets. I just, is it okay that I don't wear it? I don't like green? Am I allowed to not like it and not feel it's good for me? So we have the city respects that right to protest. But homophobia, transphobia, biphobia have no place in our community. So what is that insinuating? If you read between the lines of this statement by the city, while we respect the right to protest, homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia have no place in our community. So if I am of this community, the 2S LGBTQIA plus community, and I'm being told all the time that everyone who doesn't agree with you are haters. They hate you. I don't hate you. I have close members of my family that are part of that community, and they think this is a crock of crap. They say, who are these people to speak for us? This is not what we feel. They're actually conservative, if you can imagine that. More conservative leaning. And feel, because they want to balance the budget. They want traditional values and things, even though they choose to live a certain way. They still want their society to, by and large, follow Christian Judeo values and those things. They don't go out and go door to door and say, you need to do what we're doing. It's not important to them to proselytize the whole thing, but it is to activists. And it looks like our city somehow have become activists. There's activists in our own city being paid through our own tax dollars to be on a certain side and publicly say that. And so what if I'm in the workplace? Do I feel safe? Do I feel safe? Or are you being hypocritical here in your statement? which I oftentimes find that this kind of activist stuff is very hypocritical. No space for hate. That's their slogan. No space for hate. Yet, if you looked at the protests or any of the footage on any of the protests, the protests themselves were peaceful, but the counter protests from the side that's saying there's no place for hate looked very hateful to me, who's just an observer, like meaning yelling, screaming, swearing, not having conversations, hitting other people, things like that, showing hateful actions and being hateful online, saying we have no place for anyone disagreeing with anything we feel. If you think no one can disagree with you right away, I think that is hateful. I think you're allowed to disagree with me, but yet, through your activism and through the city's own statement and through our culture and through our media and through our politics, I'm told that I'm racist, I'm misogynist, I'm a homophobe, transphobe, and biphobe. They're calling me that. They're calling me far right. What does that even mean? I'm a conspiracy theorist. What does that even mean? So who's doing the name calling here? Who's full of hate? Who's hating? Honestly, just ask yourself that. That's it. And all inclusive. When we hear the word all inclusive, again, those statements, no place for hate, unless you're a far right person, you can hate them, no problem. That's what our prime minister says. Right? Where have we seen this before? Where have we seen this kind of propaganda before in history? So why is it so controversial that there's a former Nazi militant getting a standing ovation in our parliament? What happened there? How did a government get all their people to go against one religious group of people and think that they weren't even human? And it's okay to kill them. It's okay to do whatever you want with them because they're not even human. If you don't see what's going on in our society right now, and it's the exact same thing that led to what's happening there, I don't think I could have spelled it out any more for you than what's happening if you really, really look at it. And we're going to see the results of this. Okay? And people are going to feel vindicated because the media it's okay. The media does it too. The prime minister does it. Everyone, hey, it's okay to hate on people unless you go along with whatever the flavor of the month is. As soon as you don't wear the jersey. All of the sports commentators, how dare that athlete not wear the shirt? Oh my goodness, full of hate. That's just showing such hate by not putting on a shirt. Really? He was showing hate by not putting on a shirt? I think there's a lot worse ways of showing hate than not putting on a shirt. You know? Really? So, it's pretty crazy. Crazy stuff going on. It led to crazy things pre-World War II. And it's... if we don't see what's going on, we're going to fall victim to the same thing. And I've always thought my whole life, how did that happen? How could a government get a whole people to follow such a hateful doctrine against one group of people, causing very good people to do very hateful, atrocious things to other people? And we're seeing it now in our society. We're seeing it now in our own city. We're seeing it now in our own families. You know, it's not just talking about Donald Trump at the table during Thanksgiving and having, breaking up families just because of, but what's up with that? That's where it kind of started, right? Well, it started before that, but again, we really saw the results. Then the pandemic came and everyone separated into really polarizing camps here. And can we talk together about these issues? Can we have conversations anymore about things like this? Can we rise to a level of humanity where we're not going to take whatever government-funded media and the government and unions all together in one unified voice while telling other people not to hate are hating and causing divisions? So, yeah, I would say don't hate. And but be firm. Be firm in what you believe, and not to be firm doesn't mean to hate. I'm firm in my beliefs. And one of my beliefs is that I love my enemies, or someone who could be deemed someone who is on an opposite side of, what I would believe or do. Right? So I think that's not hating. Loving my enemies, loving those who do bad to me, persecute me. That's a good doctrine, I think. But the very person that gave us that principle is being demonized now as far right and hateful. That to me is taking something and just turning it totally upside down. Someone who's telling us to love our enemies and do good to those that persecute us and do total harm to us and love them and forgive them, is now being demonized. And the group that follow him, right? Isn't that interesting? So let's just look at, here's an example. I know we're running out of time. And I wanted to do a follow-up, too, on a story that we did yesterday about the friendly senior citizen getting off of sexual assault charges. I heard back from someone who's very close to the matter saying that story, in fact, was false, and that there are things that need, that happened, and it wasn't just a friendly senior and a friendly exchange. There were things that actually happened, and the courts did not do anything about it. So if I don't have a chance to talk about that today, I will get to that tomorrow on tomorrow's show, and it is a local story. But first, can we have these conversations when we don't agree with someone's side or whatever, right? We're talking about the 2S LGBTQIA plus community, and I have no problem with it. And here's someone who would be deemed far right, who gives speeches in colleges and universities and speaks to people, has conversations. And a lot of people want to shut these voices down. They call them extreme hate. We've had examples of it in Sudbury. We stop these people from coming and speaking to people because we say they're full of hate, right? Just because they don't agree. So here's an exchange between someone who would be deemed far right, but let's just listen and take in what the conversation is, and just do like we used to do as human beings, and look at the sides and kind of make a decision instead of being infiltrated in our minds by media and government with groupthink type things that you're not allowed to think certain things. Because if you think too much, you might come up with the answers. You might realize you're being duped. But anyways, here you go. So here is Matt Walsh, same last name, no relation, but he's speaking here in college, and you'll know what he's talking about because he'll explain it.
I spoke at New Mexico State University yesterday. It was actually a great event. A lot of fun, I thought. And for the first time in a long time, I was directly challenged in the Q&A by several people, including several trans people.
I challenge you.
So this happens every once in a while. Somebody will get up during the Q&A and they'll try to challenge me on this issue. But this is the first time in a while where most of the Q&A consisted of people on the other side stepping up one after another to try to debunk my points or challenge me, and which I think is great. It makes it a lot more fun. And this is mainly what the Q&A is supposed to be for. That's why we have the policy and the Q&As at these college events, where if you disagree, you get to go to the front of the line.
That doesn't seem fair.
Because it's great to hear from people who are supporters and they agree and they can ask really interesting questions. But very often then I'm just in the spot of restating a lot of things I already said in the talk. It's more interesting to hear from people on the other side. So that happened here, and I appreciated that. It's worth going to Yaf's YouTube page to watch the whole event, I think. But I want to play one clip. It's kind of long, it's about 5 minutes, but it's interesting because this is a trans person, one of a few that got it during the Q&A, who begins by presenting his credentials as an EMT. So says he's a medical professional, he's trans, so he's in authority on this, whereas I am not, he says. The back and forth went on for long in the fight, probably went on for about 10 minutes, but we'll pick this up about halfway through.
How would you define a woman? Because you've asked other people up here to define how we would define a woman. How would you define a woman, Mr. Walsh?
An adult human female.
And how don't how doesn't a transgender woman fit that definition?
Female. Because they're not female. They have, you said that you are a biological male, correct?
I said I'm transgender. I might be intersex for all we know. About almost as many people in the world are transgender as intersex, and a lot of people don't know.
Well, but that's a different conversation. Intersex, that's a genetic anomaly, that's a medical condition. So that's a completely different conversation. That's also not a third gender. That's a genetic anomaly that occurs within the sex binary of male and female. So what you're saying is that a quote-unquote trans woman is a female?
By the definitions I'm familiar with, yes.
So how would you define female?
Through my training in healthcare, there are several different categories for how we define sex. People bring up chromosomes. People also bring up hormone levels. People bring up all sorts of other categories. Lots of people don't fit neatly into a gender binary, even people we don't consider to be intersex. It's a complicated spectrum.
It's not complicated, but you also didn't define. So what is a woman? What is a female? What do these words mean?
It's complicated, and I know you're not going to like that answer, but that's because there are no simple answers in human biology.
Let me ask you a question.
You guys,
Can I ask you one last question?
just let me finish. You guys like to bring up high school level biology classes a lot. I get that a lot, but people who go on to more complicated biology classes will talk about sex as a spectrum.
It's not. It's not.
Well, biological researchers would disagree with you.
Well, then they're full of the ones that would say that. There are male gametes and female gametes. Oh, I had one last question. I just had one. I had one quick. Can you come back for 1 second? Because this is an important question. You said you're an EMT.
Yes.
Okay. If you're responding to a health emergency. Biological male, somebody with a penis, is having a medical emergency, and they say to you, "I think I'm having a miscarriage." Would you check them to see if they're having a miscarriage? Would you consider that a possibility for them?
Look. No, but that's because some people don't have body parts. Doesn't mean they're not a woman.
Okay. Sounds like we've established there are some people who, in principle, can get pregnant, and there are some people who can't. So there's two categories, otherwise known as binary.
Lots of women can't get pregnant either.
Yeah, but they're still of the nature to get pregnant. The only
but
reason
they can't get pregnant.
Yes, but
truth matters, right?
It does. That's what I'm trying to explain to you.
Truth matters, and they can't get pregnant. That's the truth. So how are they still women?
Because they are. for the same reason that I can rightly say that human beings have two legs. And if a person is born with only one leg, that doesn't call into question the statement that human beings have two legs, okay? A person being born with one leg doesn't mean that now legs are on a spectrum and we can't say anything at all about how many legs a person has. Who knows? They could be a centipede. You know, they could have 100 legs. No, we know human beings have two legs. If a human is born without two legs, something went wrong. They were supposed to have that second leg. Something went wrong. If you meet a person on the street who only has one leg, maybe they had an accident. Maybe they were in war. Maybe something, maybe they were in a car accident. Maybe they had cancer. A leg was cut off. But you know that something went wrong because by their nature, they're supposed to have two legs. Same thing for a woman. A woman by her nature can get pregnant. A man by his nature never can. So if you meet a woman of childbearing age, say she's 28 years old, and she can't get pregnant, you know automatically that something has gone wrong. And she can go to the doctor and find out what that thing is, even if they can't fix it. So that proves that women by their nature can get pregnant because the simple fact that she can't shows you that there's something wrong. This is what is known as the exception that proves the rule. Whereas if a male with a penis can't get pregnant, no doctor on earth is going to run tests to see what's wrong with him. Because they already know it's that he's a male, and there's only male and female, those who can get pregnant and those who can't. So, that's it.
So I think the idea of us teaching, gender in school should also include conversations like this. But I think, and I know, if you were to show this in a school or whatever, this would be deemed as hate. Even though, as a human being, listening to this, there is a lot of logic and common sense. Now, is this the full conversation on the topic? No, this is just one small tidbit of a conversation showing a couple points, maybe a possible debating environment between two people. But this I'm open to. I think this would be great. A conversation about it with two sides, let's say, not just one side and shutting down the other side and saying it's only one way. And I think as a parent, even I would welcome this in schools. I would welcome anyone to just even have the conversation because it's not about having the conversation and feeling safe about it. It's about making sure that our children only come out with one side and that's it. And there are activists, and obviously activists mean activists. They are for a cause and they want that cause to go forward. They're not open to the other side. Activists don't want to hear the other side. They want to shut it down and just have the one side. And now that our activists are in our schools, they're in the heads of the unions, they're in the board of directors, they're in our governments, right? As we talked about on previous shows. It's our way or the highway, which I feel if I'm paying for your salary in any way, shape, or form, I don't go along with that. It's not your way or the highway. If I'm paying your salary and this is publicly funded things, you don't get away with saying that. In the city, shame on the city for coming out, taking a side there. They should have said all people, we're open to all aspects of thought and we welcome it. So you can go on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Sudbury News. Look at the city's post there that we shared. You can click on what the city's formal stance is on this activists' stance. And you can see they've chosen the side already, right? And so it's up to us to do our digging, our own education on it. And if you feel you're still okay with that, and that's fine too, because it's somewhat a free country still. But if you let these people get a hold of everything, it won't be free anymore, because obviously we're seeing it's not really free to say a lot of things. You're demonized if you don't agree, And even if you don't do anything hateful, you're blamed. You're said you're hateful. That's what the media is saying, and the activists are saying. You're hateful for just disagreeing. Did Matt Walsh sound hateful when he was talking with this person? I think it was an equal exchange. I think he gave this person equal opportunity to say. Now the people in the crowd clapping, it could have been in a far left reaching audience too, and people would have clapped for the audience member who was asking the question. It would have been the same, but why not? why not have these debates open, and talk about things? I'm open for that. That's what we're doing here. So thanks for joining us. Sorry about the radio thing. It actually came on with only like 5 minutes left. They missed the whole beginning of the show because my app was just not working, but it came on board, 5 minutes before the end of the show. Anyways, we'll see you same time, same place tomorrow on this station, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, cklu.ca. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily. We'll follow up with our story on the Sudbury Star story that needs to be talked about a little bit more, that the headline was a little bit misleading, and we'll do that tomorrow. So I apologize we weren't able to get to it today, but we will tomorrow for sure. Have a safe and wonderful Tuesday, everyone. Take care. Have a good one, and ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.